Hello, my name is Jonathan Harris from Worldwide Camera Exchange. Hasselblad 500 cm, introduced around 1970, was certainly in production for 20 odd years. Fantastic, beautifully made, modular 6x6 film camera, mechanical, reliable, dependable. This is just about as good as medium format cameras get. What I'm going to do now is just walk you through the main features. I've got other videos covering 501cm, 2000 series cameras. I'll put a link up to those as I'm talking. I'll also talk about the backs and lenses briefly. And again, put up links if you want to know more information about that. Okay, so let's have a look at the camera. Starting with, let's start with the back. You need to load the film. That's where you start. If I stick the dark slide in, you'll see dark slide goes in there, pushes into position. You need to have the dark slide in to remove the back. Back release is just there, little button, slides it across, back comes off, really straightforward. This is one of the later backs. There are three different types of backs fundamentally. There's this version, which I'd also call the sort of the middle version, the second version. This is the earlier version. Now this is the A12 backs I'm talking about, not the earlier 12-on backs. This is the earlier version of the A12 with this fold down memo holder. And you'll also come across this version, which I generally call the latest version, which has this big plastic dark slide holder on the back where the dark slide slips in. So as I said, the 500cm has been around for sort of slightly over 20 years. So you might find a 500cm with this back on. Unlikely though. You're far more likely to find a later 500cm with this back on, or an earlier 500cm with this back on. But don't forget, the backs are fully interchangeable, so you could actually have a very early back and a very late camera, or vice versa. This camera is a later camera. You can tell the later cameras because they have this bar, the single bar on the bottom. The earlier cameras have two little silver brackets there and there. This is the, let me take the back off. This is, you'll see there. These are the little hooks that the back hooks onto. So with the bodies, if it's a later body, it'll have a single bar. If it's an earlier body, it'll have two little pieces. So just going back to the back, comes off by just sliding that button across there. You load through the side. I'll put a link up to show how to actually load the films. It's relatively straightforward, but you do have to do it you have to follow the correct steps. There's one particular step, and if you get it wrong, you can jam the film, snag the film. So look at that, check that video out. Just going on to the camera body. On this side, that's the main wind-on crank. At least three different versions of that. This is just a wind-on knob. There's two different wind-on cranks with a fold-out crank. Some people prefer them, some people don't. Personally, I prefer this traditional wind-on knob. So you just take the dark slide out, like so. Just wind on there with the shutter release on the front, just there. So away you go. So that's the wind-on crank. Underneath, little black button just there, that's the mirror lockup. Now with these cameras, it's quite a big mirror because it's a 6x6 camera. And when you fire the shutter, it's quite a clunk. So if you're using it on a camera, on a tripod rather, just use the mirror lockup button just there. That locks the mirror up into position. You can now take the exposure. Fewer vibrations, you've got to get sharper pictures. So that's a useful feature to have. The little silver stud just there, that's the strap stud. You'll see there's one on this side too. It needs a special Hasselblad strap with a little clip which clips onto those studs. Just going onto the front of the camera, you have the shutter release button there. You have the lens obviously, and you have the lens release button there. Now it's a leaf shuttered camera, so the shutter is in the lens. If I fire the camera like that, you'll see the shutter. There's the shutter closed within the lens. If I now take the lens off, I can't, it's locked. But if I take the lens off, I'll fog the film. So to stop that happening, to allow you to change the lenses, you need to wind the camera on. That now opens the shutter in the lens, and in the body itself, it brings down a light baffle. So you can now, with that button there, take the lens off. nice and easy. The lens won't come off unless the camera's cocked. So if I fire the camera again, that's now fired, it isn't cocked, the shutter in the lens is closed, you can see it there, that now won't come off. Don't force it. If you force it very hard, you might damage the mechanism between the lens and the body. So if you suddenly, for some reason, can't get the lens off, just very, very carefully wind it on, and away you go, the lens will come off. If you do jam the lens onto the camera, there is a way of unjamming them. I'll put a link above which just explains how to unjam a lens and body if you do jam them. Sometimes, when you put the lens on, like so, if you don't engage it all the way and then fire the camera, you can actually cause these two to jam. It's a relatively easy thing to sort out. As I said, check out the video and it'll explain how to unjam them. Look at the lens itself. This is the CF lens, which is the, again, because it's the later body, you'd usually find a later lens with the later body. As with the backs, they're all completely interchangeable. So you might find an early lens and a late body or vice versa. But this is the CF lens. The earlier C and CT style lenses are slightly more conical in shape. They look more old fashioned. They're a lot more metally. There's more plastic on these later CF lenses. I would recommend the CF lenses just because they're newer. Generally, they're very, very reliable. If they've been serviced, they all work perfectly. But if you can, go for the latest CF version. The controls, you've got the focusing there, pretty straightforward. And as I said, leaf shuttered lens. So the shutter speed dial is set there from 1 second up to a 500th. You've also got a B down and a setting down there if you need it. And the ring in between just there. Where are we? Just there. That's the aperture ring. So most of the controls are actually on the lens. Moving on to the other side of the camera, where it says 500 cm just there, that's an accessory rail. So you can get flash shoes and spirit levels, which just slide onto there. Just looking at the bottom, as I said, you've got the single bar, which shows it's the later camera. And this is the quarter, because it's got a 1/4 inch adapter in it at the moment, but that can be taken out to turn that into a 3/8 tripod fitting, or you can put the little adapter in to turn it into the standard 1/4 inch. With some of the earlier cameras, you have the 3/4 and you have the 1/4 inch. So you've got the best of both worlds, generally speaking. And this whole piece here is actually a tripod, a quick release plate. You can buy a Hasselblad quick release plate, which this slides into. Quite a useful accessory to have. Okay, so that's the base. Just finally, let's talk about the waist level finder on the top. This is the standard waist level finder. You look down on this. There's a little magnifier just in there, so you can put your eye down onto the viewfinder to magnify the screen. Now this is the later waist level finder. You'll see it folds there and it folds there, and then you squeeze it down to close it. With the earlier waist level finder, there's these 3 sides on the top are separate. So you slide down the left, you fold down the left, you fold down the right, you fold down the back, then the whole thing closes. This is just a bit quicker and a bit easier. You just fold it there and away you go. To get the viewfinder off, you take the back off like that. Don't forget to put the dark slide in, and the whole thing slides back like so. There's the screen. 500 CMs have an interchangeable focusing screen. The earlier 500C has a fixed screen. Some of the very earliest 500 CMs are marked 500C, but have the interchangeable screen. So if you come across a 500C with an interchangeable screen, that's actually a very, very early 500 CM, and they're not that rare. You do come across them fairly frequently, and people always get confused. But if it's got an interchangeable screen, it's a 500 CM. To take the screen out, you push that little lever across there, that lever across there, and the whole screen will drop out and go into your hand. I won't do it now. Screens themselves, the standard 500 500cm cameras come with the standard screen. There is an acute matte screen which is brighter, and the acute matte screen was introduced with the later cameras, the 501C, 501cm, 503CXI, but you'll find the standard screen in the 500cm that can be changed for the acute matte, the brighter screen. My advice there would be try it. Some people prefer the brighter screens, some people prefer the earlier screens. Just swap them over, try, make your own mind up over that one. To get the screen back in, as I said, you drop it back in. To get those two little levers back into position, you just slide the waist level finder on, and the two little bars, so the two little sort of levers, just lever across and hold the screen into position. So very straightforward, very easy. If you're buying one of these secondhand, always choose something as clean as possible. These are clearly generally used by professional photographers. If you find these and they've been used by wedding photographers, they can be shot to pieces. So always try to buy something as clean as you can. If you've got a service history, fantastic. If they've been serviced, that's brilliant. If they've sat around for a long time, sometimes you come across these cameras in absolutely spectacular condition, but that's because they've not been used. And if a camera like this hasn't been used for 15 or 20 years, and it's just sat in a drawer for 15 or 20 years, it won't work, it's mechanical. So do be a bit careful. Whilst I'd always recommend the nicer cameras, often it's the nicer cameras that might have mechanical issues because they haven't been used. So do tread with a little bit of caution. Always buy with a return option. Only ever buy them if you can take them away, test them and return them if there is an issue. But generally speaking, they're very, very reliable cameras. If they've been well serviced, you really can't go that wrong. I'll put another link up just explaining more about what you need to check if you're buying these things secondhand. I hope that's useful. Please subscribe and like, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.